Good day, everyone. We are from Group 8. We want to discuss about this topic here, global warming, how to deal with it. Let me introduce the members of Group 8. First, there's Abdul, Quddus, Kahfi, Kevin, Surya, Rizky, Shodiq, Muhammad, Raisya, Yusufa, Hugo, and then me, Trinetta, Ayumi, Luciano. Next. Before we get into our today's agenda, Barack Obama, the ex-president of the United States, once said, "Climate change is no longer some far off problem. It is happening here, it is happening now." It is kind of irony how Earth in this illustration is so true about how the Earth is suffering from many problems and need Max to protect it. Okay, next. So moving on to our agenda, in order to talk about ways to stop global warming, we need to know what is global warming, what is global warming doing to the environment, what is effect, and can people stop the global warming or reverse the effect of global warming? Moving on.
Okay, glaciers are melting, sea levels are rising, cold forests are dying, and wildlife is scrambling to keep pace. It has become clear that humans have caused most of this past centuries warming by releasing heat-trapping gases as we power our modern lives. Called greenhouse gases, their level are higher now than at any time in the last 800,000 years. We often call the result global warming, but it is causing a sad change to the Earth's climate or long-term weather patterns that varies from place to place. While many people think of global warming and climate change as synonyms, scientists use climate change when describing the complex shifts now affecting our planet's weather and climate system, in part because some areas actually get cooler in the short term. Global warming makes any affection to the environment, such as more frequent water, dirtier air, more acidic oceans, higher sea level, and etc. On the right-hand side, we can see the increase of mean temperature from 8,000s until 20s, 2000s become because of global warming. The mean temperature is increased 0.13 Fahrenheit until 0.14 per decade.
Can people stop the global warming? Let's discuss it on the next slide. There are many ways to reduce gas emission that cause global warming. The first one is improve rice production. Rice is the staple food of 3 billion people, providing 1/5 of calories consumed worldwide. Its cultivation is responsible for at least 10% of agricultural greenhouse gas emission and 9 to 19% of global methane emissions. That is because food rice fields are ideal anaerobic environment for methane producing microbes that feed on decomposing organic matter, a process known as methanogenesis. There are four next slide. There are four general techniques best used in combination to improve rice production and reduce emission. The first one is water. Mid-season drainage and alternate wetting and drying improve aerobic conditions. Nutrients, more balanced application of nutrients, reduce methane emission while supporting yields. Plant varieties, rice varieties that are less water loving can be used in more aerobic environment. Tillage techniques for seeding rice without tilling the ground maintain stable soils. This technique can make rice production efficient, dependable, and sustainable, helping to meet growing demand for this staple food without causing warming. Next slide.
Okay, the second way is onshore wind turbines. Onshore wind turbines generate electricity at a utility scale comparable to power plants. They replace fossil fuels with emission-free electricity. So wind energy is the crest of initiative to address global warming in the coming 3 decades. Today, uh, 314,000 wind turbines supply nearly 4% of global electricity, and it will soon be much more. In 2015, a record 63 gigawatts of wind power were installed around the world. The wind industry is marked by a proliferation of turbines, dropping costs and heightened performance. In many locales, wind is either competitive with or less expensive than coal-generated electricity, and it has no fuel cost and no pollution. Ongoing cost reduction will soon make wind energy the least expensive source of electricity, perhaps within a decade. Onshore wind farms have small footprints, typically using no more than 1% of the land they sit on. So, grazing, farming, recreation, or conservation can happen simultaneously with our generation. What's more, it takes 1 year or less to build a wind farm, quickly producing energy and a return on investment. The variable nature of wind means there are times when turbines are not turning. Wind energy, like other source of energy, is part of a system. Investment in 24/7 renewables such as geothermal energy storage, transmission infrastructure, and distributed generation is essential to its growth.
Thanks for the chance. Now we will discuss about third solution that has big impact and the most obvious one of all solution is about tropical forest restoration. Now why we mention specifically tropical forest? Now tropical forests have suffered extensive clearing, fragmentation, degradation, and depletion of biodiversity. Restoring this forest also restores their function as carbon sinks. In recent decades, tropical forests have suffered extensive clearing, fragmentation, degradation, and depletion of biodiversity. Once blanketing 12% of the world's landmass, they now cover just 5%. While destruction continues in many places, tropical forest restoration is growing and may sequester as much as 6 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year. As the forest ecosystem recovers, trees, soil, leaf litter, and other vegetation absorb and hold carbon. As flora and fauna return and interaction between organisms and species revive, the forest regains its multidimensional roles, supporting the water cycle, conserving soil, protecting habitat and pollinators, providing food, medicines, and fiber, and giving people place to live, adventure, and worship. The specific mechanics of restoration vary. The simplest scenario is to release land from non-forest use, such as growing crops or damming a valley, and let a young forest rise up on its own. Protective measures can keep pressures such as fire, erosion, and or grazing at bay. Other techniques are more intensive, such as cultivating and planting native seedlings and removing invasive to accelerate natural ecological processes. Because forests and people rarely exist in isolation in today's heavily populated world, local communities need to have a stake in what is growing. If restoration is to sustain, and that's for tropical forest restoration as one of solution to drawback from climate change. As we arrive to the end of our presentation, now we have some quotes from Carl Sagan. Don't sit this one out. Do something by chance of fate. You are alive at an absolutely critical moment in the history of our planet. And that's from our team. Thank you for giving attention and see you